Hello, this is wmpyr here to talk about one of my challenge matches, unofficial, and this was actually quite friendly. Some of the challenge matches I've had were unfriendly. This one I would categorize definitely in the friendly category. I had a buddy of mine who was really into ninjitsu. He called himself a ninjitsu practitioner. He had actually had a little bit of training with Stephen K. Hayes himself. And this guy was also a huge Bruce Lee fan, so much so that he actually utilized one of his favorite techniques was to throw a punch like this and to use the thumb to gouge the eyes. So it was it was kind of an eye jab, modified eye jab from JKD, and he actually used that. And so I knew that when facing him, I wanted to avoid his hands because I didn't want to get eye gouged. And also, if you see in the Ultimate Fighting Championships, I don't want to say Chuck Liddell, but that has happened in the UFC, and it has actually, been used unofficially to some great extent, and had hurt the other fighter and stuff. So anyway, this is way before the UFC became modernized. This was still around the time when Royce Gracie was making a big name for himself and everything. So this guy really did not like grappling, really did not like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I guess back in the day, I had the attitude of, you show me the latest, newest martial arts and you say it is the best, then I go train in it. That was my attitude. So when Jean-Claude Van Damme was making movies like Kickboxer, I went and trained in Thai boxing. When Steven Seagal came out and demonstrated Aikido in his films and stuff, and I was like, whoa, what is that? Use your opponent's strength against them? I went and trained in Aikido. Jeff Speakman using the sticks, I went and trained in Eskrima. So, I had that attitude. So Royce Gracie comes on, makes a big splash in the United States. So I went and trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, although it was very difficult at the time because there were not many schools and stuff. So I did it the best that I could to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the time. So anyway, I was in that kind of bandwagon, not to convert, but if something comes about, I need to learn about it. So I went and learned. This guy, on the other hand, it's unfortunate, big Bruce Lee fan, JKD fan, and he was closed. He was closed to it. He did not like it. I understand because at the time, a lot of people were saying that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the best style ever. It is the most effective style. When you say stuff like that, you're asking to be hated, and that is the way he took it. So he really had a problem with the people saying stuff like that. It shouldn't be him versus the style. It should be him versus the people making big mouths like that. That's what it should have been. But because of that, he decided to close himself towards grappling. But I considered him a training partner. So one time, I remember a buddy of mine. I just had a bunch of martial arts guys, martial arts friends and stuff in college, and one of them was a very good Taekwondo guy who had a little bit of judo experience. This guy's a national level Taekwondo competitor, and this guy and the ninjitsu guy did not get along. They were like cats and dogs. They hated each other for some reason. They just didn't click. It was personality is what it was, just personality difference, and they got into it right there in the parking lot, and the Taekwondo guy was at the time like 160 pounds, 165 pounds, and the ninjitsu guy, he was over 200 pounds, all right? And myself at the time, I was like 140, 130, so I was a small guy. Yeah, still am a small guy, but I'm a lot heavier now, but still. Okay, so they went at it. I remember we had to stop it. The ninjitsu guy, he also really liked to kick. That was his thing. And he was one of those guys that he did not like shoes. So I remember it was freezing cold outside. Everyone was like, oh, it's so cold. This guy's barefoot on the concrete, and he's like, I love it. This is fantastic. And he likes to kick barefoot. He was ready to go running and stuff. Just crazy guy. But that was his thing. And I definitely didn't want to get kicked by him. But if I had to choose between his eye gouging punches or his kicks, I'd rather get kicked. So anyway, I remember thinking that in my mind, and watching the two go at it, he held his own against a really good Taekwondo guy. So it shows that his kicking was not bad at all, actually. So anyway, that also, you know, input, because I might have to spar with this guy or you know, get into it. And later on that day, if I'm not mistaken, we actually did. He was already on edge, and then that was the last thing. That after that, we went to go eat, just distracted him and said, pulled him apart, and we were like, hey, let's just go eat. You guys forget about it, and we kept him apart. But then when we came back, he just basically took out his anger on me, the ninjitsu guy, and part of the reason was he didn't like the fact that I was training in grappling, so he wanted to, I guess, express that anger by challenging me. So he was like, you think you're awesome at grappling? Well, you know, I'm not afraid to fight you in grappling. So he shot in on me, and I pulled guard, and we ended up in the guard. And my intent wasn't to tap him out or to let him know that I could submit him easily or anything like that. So I just held the guard and until they broke us apart, and that was it. And he knew that I wasn't fighting back. He knew that I was holding back. So he really didn't like that as well. So it was kind of like a to be continued. So anyway, later on, I don't know how much later, I don't remember, but we were in a situation where we were talking with a bunch of other guys that were into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and grappling and stuff like that. So this guy was out of his element, so I'm sure he felt very unaccepted, or he felt not part of the group, and so he was not feeling good, all right? And then he actually got into an argument with one of the guys, one of our top guys, one of our top grapplers, and he started talking, our captain actually, and he started talking all this smack, like grappling's stupid and it's gay, and you know, on and on and on. And our captain is very well respected, and part of the reason why is because not only for his skill, but it's also his personality. So he was very open-minded towards it, and he was like, well, you know, in these matches, I wouldn't say that grappling is superior, but in the UFC, they have shown that it can be effective. Would you not like to add grappling to your arsenal? And the guy was, you know, the ninjitsu guy was like, no, it's stupid. Why add it? Why go to the ground in the street? You're going to get killed. And he was just very, very close to it. So eventually what happened was I turned into a challenge match between myself and the ninjitsu guy. So we went at it. What happened was, I had also known that, you know, he had been very vocal about not liking grappling, and one of the things that one of my buddies, one of our training partners, who's also another really good martial artist, had shown him an armbar. Said, these are some of the things that we practice. This is an armbar. And then the ninjitsu guy was like, that's stupid. I mean, your groin is right there. I could just elbow the guy in the groin, and even if you broke my arm in the street, that's not going to stop me. I'm going to keep fighting you with one hand. So he had a lot of, you know, it was just really a lot of negative and anger-driven comments. So I had known that was going to be some of his tactics. And him being a ninjitsu guy, sometimes the boundary of what is acceptable and what is not with a ninjitsu guy is, whoa, they're going to do stuff that is completely unexpected. So sparring this guy, I knew he was very, very dangerous in that sense. I do have to give him a lot of credit because he wanted to grapple, test himself against another grappler in grappling. I hear a lot of guys later on, I've heard a lot of guys like, oh yeah, I got into a fight with this guy, I got into a challenge match with this guy, he was a kickboxer, I took him to the ground and I beat him silly. And I'm like, yeah, he was a kickboxer. You took a kickboxer to the ground who has 0 ground skills and you beat him on the ground. That's nothing to brag about. You beat a kickboxer in his stand-up, then I'm impressed. But you take a kickboxer to the ground, or you take a grappler is standing and you beat him standing, I mean, you know, he's out of his element. You're kind of a bully. How is that impressive, you know? So anyway, this guy wanted to challenge me in grappling, and he did. So I don't remember exactly what happened. I'm pretty sure he was very aggressive, and I'm pretty sure that I played, you know, I was just feeling, I was using sensitivity, so I went with it. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Either he got me in a headlock, and then I countered a headlock, or I ended up in the guard and I used an elevator to sweep him. Okay, it was probably one or the other. Anyway, either way, I ended up on top and went into an armbar position, and it was just, everything was smooth. And I remember thinking, yeah, this guy's a lot bigger, stronger than me. and he has dirty street moves, so I need to be careful. But everything felt safe, and I remember going through in my mind that this was too easy. It felt like textbook 101. It would be challenging if textbook was broken. In other words, like in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu textbook, you got A, B, C, and then you got the finish, or whatever, however it takes to get to the armbar from whatever position. So you follow the sequence, you know, to do that. And it was just like, to make it challenging, one of those sequences have to be broken, either because the guy's tremendously strong, or I messed up somewhere, or he made me mess up. But nothing like that happened. It was really easy for me. And I just remember I got him in an armbar, I just let go, and I stood up, and I said, let's call this a draw. And he was like, what's going on? He's like, you didn't do it. And I really at that point felt like, what was the need? At least for my part, it didn't seem like it was necessary. So instead, I chose to keep the friendship and continue to train with him, and have some more exciting stories with the guy, maybe for another time. But that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed.